I want to preface this by saying my dad and his friend are redoing the siding on the house, and they're right there. So you may hear a little pounding. If it gets really loud, you know, we're gonna pause and like, yeah, but you might hear like a little hammer at times, or you might hear someone cackling, because they are very loud humans, as we are loud. I am my father's daughter, so I apologize for the noise. There's nothing I can do about it, because this is the only day we could film, and they just picked today to do this.
They're literally right outside the window.
So they can hear everything that we're saying, we can hear everything they say.
They're working on this part of the house today, so.
But today, I have a very special video, because I've been wanting to do this for a while. I haven't told her.
I'm all ears.
I literally texted her the other day, and I was like, I have 2 videos. We have the serial killer and one that's a secret. So
I also never texted her back.
She didn't. I had our dear friend Cody, I got on my little Ouija board and I said, hey girl, you want to help me with a video? And he was like, depends on what it is, because remember, we sacrificed this man. He is in the afterlife, allegedly. And I tell him, I was like, you know, we did a video earlier this year
Right.
of Valentine's Day horror stories that we found on Reddit. And so I said, hey, can you find some Halloween stories on Reddit for us to read? I want to do a blind reading where neither of us know the stories. Every single video you see, I already know what's happening. She doesn't.
I don't.
Because I'm the one that writes everything.
Unless it's like serial killer, typically I'll look those up, or half of them are my pick.
But like the most scariest places, most scariest cemeteries, stuff like that,
I have no.
she has. It's all a surprise to her. Now it's gonna be a surprise to both of us, because he sent me an email the other day and I have not opened it yet. I believe he just woke up. So
that's a little early for him.
It's 11:26. Oh my god, he even noted them. Like so this first one says, my parents disappear every October 1st, and then he made a note and said, fairly decent, but want to know more. I love that. This man went
He
through
took this so seriously.
Wow. What a man. So this first one is called, my parents disappear every October 31st. I don't mean they'd leave for a party or a night out. No, they'd vanish, gone without a trace by sunset, leaving me alone in the house. I'd search for them, call their names, but they were always gone, like they'd never existed. It wasn't something we ever talked about. The next morning, they'd be back, acting as if nothing had happened, like it was just another night, but it wasn't. I knew that. I learned that the hard way. It all started when I was 6 years old. I remember that first Halloween like it was yesterday. I was dressed as a witch, excited to go trick-or-treating, but just as the sun dipped below the horizon, I noticed the house felt different, cold, quiet, too quiet. I ran through the halls calling for my mom and dad, but no one answered. Panic set in, though maybe they were hiding, playing a prank, but after what felt like hours of searching, I realized they were gone. The front door was locked, the windows were shut, and I was completely alone. That's when I found the first note. It was on the kitchen table, written in my mom's familiar handwriting. It simply said, Rule 1, stay in your room. Do not come out until sunrise. Whatever you hear, ignore it. I didn't understand then. I was scared, confused, and alone. I didn't want to stay in my room. I wanted to find my parents, but something about the note made me follow the instructions. I took a flashlight and a pillow, locked myself in my room, and crawled under the covers. I thought maybe it was some kind of weird game. I wasn't sure. That night, I didn't sleep much. The house creaked and groaned more than usual. I heard strange noises, soft scratching at my door, footsteps in the hallway, whispers that I couldn't quite make out. I told myself it was the wind or my imagination, but deep down, I knew it wasn't. Something was in the house with me. The next morning, when I opened my door, my parents were back. They were sitting at the kitchen table, sipping coffee like nothing had happened. I asked them where they'd gone, what had happened, but they just smiled and said I must have had a bad dream. That was the beginning. Every Halloween after that was the same. My parents would disappear just before nightfall, leaving me alone with a note. Each year, the instructions got a little more specific and a little more ominous. By the time I was 8, the notes included things like rule number 2, don't look out the windows, and rule number 3, don't respond if someone calls your name. And the noises, they got worse. One year, when I was 9, the sounds outside my room became unbearable. There were knocks on the door, not gentle, but loud, insistent pounding. I pressed my hands over my ears, squeezing my eyes shut, but I couldn't block it out. The voice on the other side was familiar, my mother's voice, calling my name. Ellie, it's okay. You can come out now. She sounded so calm, so normal. For a second, I almost believed it was really her. But the rule had been clear. Do not open the door, no matter what you hear. So I didn't. I stayed under the covers, trembling, until the knocking stopped. I never told my parents about the voice, and they never asked. The years passed, and the game continued. It became a twisted Halloween tradition. While other kids dressed up and collected candy, I stayed locked in my room, listening to the house come alive with things I couldn't see. I became used to the notes, the strange noises, and the feeling of being watched. It was all part of the game, my own haunted ritual. But when I turned 13, everything changed. That year, the note was different. I found it on my bed just as the sun was setting. But instead of the usual instructions, it said, rule number 4, there's something new in the house tonight. Be careful. I didn't know what that meant, but the moment I read it, I felt a chill run down my spine. Something new? What did that mean? I locked my door as usual and tried to settle in for the night, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. The noises started earlier than usual. At first, it was the familiar creaks and footsteps. I'd gotten used to those, but then there was something else. Breathing. I could hear it, low and heavy, just outside my door. It wasn't human. It was too slow, too deep. I pressed myself against the headboard, clutching my flashlight like a weapon, even though I knew it wouldn't help. The breathing moved away after a while, but then came the scratching. It wasn't at my door this time. It was coming from inside my room. I whipped the flashlight around, scanning the walls, the ceiling, but there was nothing. The scratching grew louder, closer, until it felt like it was coming from beneath my bed. My heart pounded in my chest, my throat dry with fear. I didn't dare look under the bed. I was too scared of what I might find. The scratching stopped abruptly, replaced by a soft, childlike giggle. The sound of it froze the blood in my veins. It wasn't me. It wasn't my parents. Something was in the room with me. I backed up against the wall, holding the flashlight out in front of me like it could protect me from whatever was there. The giggling continued, soft and mocking. I whispered to myself, it's not real, it's just a game, but I didn't believe it anymore. Suddenly, there was a loud bang on the door. The whole room seemed to shake with the force of it. I dropped the flashlight, plunging myself into darkness. The breathing was back, but this time it was right outside my door. Bang! Another hit. The door shuttered. Bang! The lock rattled. Whatever was out there was trying to get in, but my hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold it. The banging grew more violent, each hit sounding like the door was about to give in. And then, just as suddenly as it started, it stopped. Silence. Pure, deafening silence. I held my breath, waiting, listening for any sign of movement. Then, the voice returned, soft and sweet like honey. Ellie, it's okay. You can come out now. It was my mother's voice again, but this time I knew it wasn't her. I didn't answer. I didn't move. I just sat there, frozen in fear, praying for the night to end. The voice called out again, more insistent this time. Ellie, don't be scared. It's just a game. My hands were trembling, and I could barely hold on to the flashlight. The voice kept calling, but I stayed silent. I knew the rules. I knew I couldn't open the door. But then, something strange happened. The door. It began to unlock. I heard the soft click of the lock turning, and the handle slowly twisted. "No," I whispered, pressing myself further against the wall. The door creaked open, just a crack, but enough for me to see a shadow in the hallway, something tall and thin, its limbs too long, its fingers clawed. It wasn't my mother. The creature stood in the doorway, unmoving, watching me. I could feel its eyes on me, even though I couldn't see its face. My heart was pounding in my chest, and I felt like I might pass out. And then, just as it stepped forward, the first rays of sunlight crept through the window. The creature recoiled, hissing like an animal, and within seconds, it was gone. The door slammed shut, and the house was quiet again. I didn't leave my room until the sun was fully up. When I finally opened the door, the house was just as it had been the night before. Silent, empty, as if nothing had happened. My parents were back, sitting at the kitchen table, drinking coffee like they always did. I stumbled in, shaken and pale, and told them everything. The creature, the scratching, the voice that wasn't my mother's. They just looked at me, exchanged glances, and then my dad laughed softly. "You must have had a bad dream," he said, shaking his head. "Nothing like that happened, Ellie. It was just your imagination." My mom smiled that same strange smile and added, "You're safe now. It's over." But I knew better. I knew it wasn't just a dream. The fear, the things I'd heard and seen, they were real. They had to be. My parents didn't believe me. They never did. And that was the most terrifying part. Now, as an adult with children of my own, I know the truth. Whatever haunted me in that house, whatever played that sick game, it's still out there, waiting. And it's hungry. I fear for the lives of my children. I'll never let them go through what I went through. I'll protect them at all costs. Even if it means never celebrating Halloween, never letting the night touch them the way it touched me. Because I know, deep down, that it's only a matter of time before the game starts again. Halloween is coming.
Yeah, I needed more information than that.
Yeah. I liked it though. It was creepy, don't get me wrong, but like...
It was.
Yeah. Cody's notes was fairly decent but wanted to know more. I think we all want to know more. Cody, figure out what's more.
Write the rest of it or something. I can't believe he emailed all that through a Ouija board. That's gotta take a long time. This one's called Broken Silence. Cody note. Good story, but ending written in a weird way, has conclusion, but conclusion confused me more. Well, that's not hard to do. It was a crisp Halloween night, and Margot had the house all to herself. A stack of textbooks sat untouched on the kitchen table, the lamp's soft glow casting long shadows on the walls. Margot, 18 and a first-year college student, had never been one for parties. The allure of studying for her exams outweighed any trick-or-treating or costume festivities her classmates might enjoy. Tonight, her focus was on an easy babysitting gig for a couple who had gone out for the evening. Sean, the 1.5-year-old she was looking after, had been an angel all night. His giggles filled the air, his big blue eyes sparkling like stars. Margot had already tucked him into bed, his tiny form nestled under a blanket adorned with cartoon animals. She settled onto the couch, the warm glow from the TV barely lighting the room. Margot didn't mind the silence, in fact, she liked it. The quiet was her companion, especially since she didn't have friends to fill the space. Her phone vibrated on the coffee table, but she ignored it. Instead, she focused on the soft sound of the baby monitor beside her. It was comforting, knowing that if Sean stirred or needed anything, she'd hear it immediately. The clock ticked on. A few minutes later, something caught her attention. It was faint at first, a whisper. She furrowed her brow, leaning closer to the monitor. There it was again, a voice. "Margot, come here, it's time." Margot's heart skipped a beat. The baby, Sean, had been sound asleep. There was no reason for anyone to be talking through the monitor. She glanced toward the hallway, but everything looked normal. She hesitated. Maybe it was just static, or perhaps the wind messing with the signal. She shook it off, but the voice came again, clearer this time. "Hey lady, you're too late." Her stomach churned. She stood up slowly, her instincts telling her to check on Sean. What was going on? The house felt unnervingly still. She walked to the nursery door and paused, listening. No sound came from the monitor now, just a faint crackling. She took a breath and pushed open the door. The room was bathed in dim light, and there in the crib was Sean. He was still asleep, a small smile curling on his face as he dreamed. Relieved, Margot exhaled. But as she turned to leave, the voice crackled through the monitor again, but this time it was loud, angry. "Leave him alone! He's mine!" Margot froze. That was not Sean. Her heart began to pound as she slowly backed away from the crib. She glanced nervously at the monitor, but the voice kept coming. It was distorted, eerie, and mocking. A sudden shiver ran down her spine. "Go! Go now!" the voice hissed. Margot's legs were trembling, and she felt a chill spread throughout her body. She turned to leave, but the footsteps came next, loud and fast, pacing just behind her. Her breath quickened, but when she reached the door, something made her glance over her shoulder. There was nothing there. But the whispers, the low, sinister whispers, kept getting louder. "Don't leave yet!" Her heart pounded in her chest. She sprinted out of the room, the baby monitor static now blaring in her ears, the whispers turning into full, distorted words. "You can't leave! You're mine!" She raced down the dark hallway towards the stairs, her mind reeling in a panic. Something was wrong. Something was terribly wrong. She heard the voice one last time as she reached the top of the stairs, and it screamed in her ear, "Get out of my house!" Margot gasped and stumbled, her foot catching on the top step. Time seemed to slow as she toppled forward, her body twisting in midair. The stairs loomed like jagged teeth as she fell, the ground rushing up to meet her. There was a sickening crack, and everything went dark. Hours later, the flashing red and blue lights of a police car illuminated the quiet street. Officers were gathered at the foot of the stairs, one of them talking quietly into his radio. A man in a coat stood nearby, his eyes red and swollen from crying. "How did she—" he started to ask, but the officer raised a hand to stop him. "We found her body at the foot of the stairs. Looks like she tripped while trying to leave the room." The officer paused, glancing down at the baby monitor still lying on the floor near the stairs, the static barely audible. "Strangest thing," the officer continued, looking over the monitor. "Turns out it was picking up a radio signal from some old horror radio show. It's been glitching all night, playing voices and static. Maybe that's what spooked her." The man nodded slowly, wiping his eyes. She didn't even have a chance." The officer gave a soft sigh, then shook his head. "Sometimes the signals just get crossed, you know? It happens more than you'd think. It's strange, but no one was in that room, not anyone real." He paused again and looked up, glancing at the baby still sleeping peacefully in his crib. The officer took one last look at the baby monitor. The voice, the whispers. It all made sense now. "Just a glitch in the system," he muttered to himself. But there was something unsettling about the way the static crackled again, as if someone or something was still trying to speak. Dun dun dun.
So this one's called Clown Statue. Cody note, classic, but there is one aspect about the ending changed that I almost guarantee might make you guys laugh. A few years ago, there was a wealthy couple who had 2 young children, a boy and a girl. The family lived in a large house in Newport Beach, California. After taking care of their kids all week, the mother and father decided that they needed a break. So they booked a table for dinner at a nice restaurant. That evening, they called a teenage girl they knew and arranged for her to come over and babysit their children while they were out. When the babysitter arrived, the parents told her to fix supper for the kids and put them to bed. "After that, you can just watch TV and help yourself to anything in the fridge," said the father. "And if you wouldn't mind," said the mother, "could you watch TV in our bedroom? The kids have been having nightmares recently, so if you hear them crying, you can just go in and calm them down." The babysitter happily agreed, and the parents left for their dinner date. The girl gave the children some milk and cookies, then ushered them upstairs to bed. She started to read them a bedtime story, and before long, the little boy and girl were fast asleep. After tucking them in, she switched off the lights and went to watch TV. When the babysitter walked into the parents' bedroom and sat down, she noticed that there was a creepy-looking clown statue standing in the corner of the room. She tried to ignore it, but it looked so eerie and disturbing that it sent a chill down her spine. She felt as though its eyes were staring straight at her while she watched TV. As time passed, the babysitter started to feel more and more uneasy about the clown statue. Whenever she glanced at it, she got the unsettling feeling that it had moved, ever so slightly. Finally, the clown statue began to freak her out so much that she couldn't handle it any longer. She decided to go downstairs and phone the parents. When she dialed the number they had left for her, the mother answered. "Hi, it's me," said the babysitter. "Everything's fine. The kids are fast asleep in bed, but I was just wondering, would it be okay if I watched TV downstairs?" "Of course," replied the father, "but why?" "I know it sounds silly," laughed the girl, "but the clown statue is really creeping me out." "The clown statue?" asked the father. "Yeah, the clown statue in your bedroom," the girl replied. The phone went silent for a moment. "Listen to me very carefully," said the father. "Take the children and get out of the house. We will call the police. Go now." "What's wrong?" asked the girl. The father gulped and replied, "We don't have a clown statue." For a second, the babysitter just stood there, stunned. Then, she dropped the phone and raced upstairs and grabbed the children. Carrying one under each arm, she raced downstairs again and fled out into the street. Huddled on the sidewalk, comforting the two children, the babysitter looked up at the bedroom window and saw something that made her scream out in horror. Peeking through a gap in the curtains was the white painted face of a clown. It stared at her for a moment, then sank back into the darkness. Within minutes, the police arrived and cautiously entered the house. In the upstairs bedroom, they found a man dressed in a clown suit. When they arrested him, they found a knife concealed in his costume. The clown turned out to be a mentally disturbed midget
I don't think you're allowed to say that.
who was a convicted murderer and cold-blooded killer. The evil man had been stalking the family for months, lurking in their attic during the daytime and coming out to sneak around the house at night. For weeks, the children had been complaining about a clown statue that stood in their room and watched them sleep, but the parents just dismissed this as nightmares.
Imagine telling your kids they're fine the whole time they're about to get axe murdered.
The next ones are 2-sentence horror stories. This is the last one that has a note. It says absolute classic animated version that was terrifying back in the day. Why are you saying back in the day like you're 50? I heard it too. One night, as I was in my room, my mom called me from the kitchen down the hall. As I walked down the hall, I'm pulled into the closet and a hand is clasped over my mouth to silence me. "Shh, I heard it too," my mom whispers into my ear.
This Skittle clown tastes like soap.
Oh, is it a video for it?
Sarah!
Ew. Have you seen this?
What the fuck?
What the hell did you just make us watch?
2-sentence horror story. Prepared?
No.
Is it a boy or a girl? Asked my pregnant wife. The doctor, with horror in his eyes, turned the ultrasound screen to show 30 billion raccoons.
Thank God the rattlesnake's venom wasn't enough to kill me, I thought to myself in the hospital bed. The rattlesnake slithered inside the room, holding an N72 long rocket launcher.
I was making love to my wife. She was making hate. The end.
Okay. Well, that was entertaining. I don't know what the hell I read, and I don't know what the hell I watched.
Oh my god.
I'm not gonna put that video in here because I don't want to get copyrighted or anything. So if you want to watch that video, I will link it in the description so you can see what we watched. I don't know why you'd want to, but...
I don't know if you want to, but...
Well, thanks, Cody. I appreciate that. We will see you for another video, and we love y'all. Okay, well, bye!